Hey there, Nocturnes! Welcome back to another episode of Surviving College. I'm Jeremy, a senior high school teacher here in the Philippines. For tonight, I'd like to talk about something that sprung up recently in one of my conversations with my colleagues. And based on our exchange, I discovered that there is something which many employees, probably you're one of them, fear the most, and that is what to answer if, let's say, you finally made that jump from your current company to your new one, but before you can even say goodbye totally to your current company, you have to answer some questions, and one of them is, why are you leaving us? Right? So I thought of making tonight's episode about that. I'm giving here tips for what not to say and what to say for each corresponding meaning, a reason for resigning from a job. Okay, for reason number one, let's say you honestly don't like your job anymore because maybe you feel you're not good at it or you're not seeing results the way you expect them to be. So what not to say if the question is something about that. You okay, what not to say? Well, I thought the job was just too heavy. I didn't like the thought of working overtime. Don't ever say that because it's going to hurt the feelings of your employer. And but what you can instead say, something safe, is this, something general. I just think after, let's say, 6 months or 1 year, all right, on the job, I've been able to prove that the job was not really aligned with my skills, like that. So I thought that my skills would be better utilized in another field. Okay? And then it's easier to elaborate from there. Now, next reason for resigning. You just feel you don't belong in your company. Okay, wrong thing to say. Well, I hate the workplace culture. It's immature. The people there don't know how to, they're impolite. They don't know any manners, or they're just too loud, or they're too serious. No, don't say those things. Instead, say this. Well, I just thought that the company is creating a culture that didn't match my values as a professional. And this company that I'm moving into, based on its vision and mission, I thought that it's perfectly aligned with what I am and my principles for life. Like that. And then number three, what if your reason for leaving is your boss? Do not say stuff like, oh, my boss was so toxic. He or she was a micromanager. He or she, well, didn't care about my feelings or didn't care about my well being. No, no, no. That would definitely reach your boss. And it's very important that you answer this well because your potential employer would do a background check on you and would the first person that they'd like to interview is your former immediate head, and your current toxic boss would immediately become that. So you better say something that would not harm your reputation. So instead of saying bad stuff about your boss in the exit interview, say something like, well, you can think of an in-between response. He or she had his or own way. I had my own way of doing things, and most of the time we could not reconcile our expectations for the job. Something along those lines. At least because of its neutrality, you would not be accused of libel or bad mouthing your boss, something like that. At least you're stating a fact, and you don't need to be too specific about that. I think your interviewer would get the point. Now, for the last reason, what if your reason for leaving is that the company you're moving into honestly has a better offer in terms of compensation? So do not say stuff like, well, the salary here is pretty low, or I do not really like, I do not work for cheap. Like, so well, nothing like that, because the again, when you're resigning, your employee would, instinctively want to feel that they're better than other companies. Okay, so instead of saying something like that, say instead, well, I based on the announcement, for example, on the suspension of our pay raise, and that I have to take a pay cut over the next 2 years. I think I have to make this move because this company would be able to give me the salary that I just don't want but need to get by. I'm about, let's say, I have just started an investment, and a higher income would be necessary for me to pay for the equity, those things. Okay, at least that's objective, and it's not likely to offend anyone, because if honestly your current company isn't really able to provide you the raise that you want due to financial constraints, and that you have proven you are deserving of such amount, then it will be easier for them to accept that. So all in all, why is it important to give the best answers in exit interviews and the the starting interview at your next job? Is because people are human. People always be human. These interviewers, these recruiters, okay, they are human. And even if there's this vow of confidentiality, you cannot expect them to uphold it perfectly. So, what do you think about this episode? Drop them down on the comments below. So, continue surviving and continue surviving in the dark until the next episode.